Hey guys, this is Dinosaur Drawer, and today I'm gonna show you guys how to draw the head of the Indominus-Rex. I have done one before about the Indominus-Rex, but that one wasn't as accurate. So there are a lot of videos out there. I've got a lot of drawings out there that aren't really accurate. So here I'm just saying that if you want me to do a more accurate version, a redo of a more accurate version of any drawings that I've drawn for like, well, let's say about 1 year ago, not actually 2018, but maybe 2017, then just tell me in the comments. But before we're going into it, I want to give a shout out to the creature creator. So I'm just going to show it with my phone. So the creature creator actually does a lot of helpful tutorial-ish kind of videos. For example, in this video he shows how you can draw creature heads in different kind of perspectives, and it's really helpful to me at least, because I'm trying to get a better understanding about perspective. And so yeah, he only has 85 subscribers right now, but I think he will get a lot more, so you should really subscribe to him. He has a lot of helpful videos. Alright, so the tutorial drawing actually, it's going to look a little bit like this. And yeah, I just did a lot of sketches on this really big piece of paper. But the tutorial video is going to be a little bit like, it's going to look a little bit like this. But it's not going to be as detailed as this one, because I'm not sure if you can see it, but there are thousands of skills in there. And it took me about 2.5 hours. So that would be too long for a tutorial video. I'm just gonna break it down into like maybe a video of 1 hour max. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay guys, so the first thing that we that we want to do is yeah, break it up in a couple of shapes. For example, his lower jaw will be, we will start with this circle, and this will be a part of his lower jaw, something like this. And then over here starts his upper jaw, like this. Then it goes kind of like this, and we're just gonna start with basic shapes. And sketching it out. So this is kind of his upper jaw for now. And now let's get in his lower jaw as well. And his lower jaw actually is a little bit longer than his upper jaw, so he kind of has an underbite. Then it goes back in over here, goes back out, and then you have this really strong jaw muscle. And this underbite might be a little bit too extreme, so just refining it a little bit. Alright, and now I want to refine his upper jaw a tiny little bit. So it is kind of shaped like this, and he has kind of a curve like almost every dinosaur has over here. And normally a normal dinosaur would have his upper jaw go like this, then it goes like this, and then this curve. But the Indominus-Rex doesn't really have that. It just goes like that, and that's basically all for his upper jaw. His lower jaw is located a little bit further back, so he really has this really large lower jaw over here, and this isn't shaped entirely right. I'm just going to erase it a little bit. Kind of goes like this, and then it kind of goes like this. And this is the downside of erasing your paper, because when you're erasing your paper actually gets damaged a little. That way, when I'm going to draw over it right now, it will look slightly different than all the other places that I've got in my drawing. I'm not sure why, but I can't seem to get it quite right, so I'm going to adjust it a little bit and make it a little bit larger over here, this part. And do something like this, and then over here it goes up and attaches to the rest of his jaw. I'm still not quite happy, so let's just make his jaw a little bit bigger, I guess. Alright. Let's see. Now, what we want to do is get the shape of his head right, which actually goes kind of like this. He has a bump over here, then another bump for his nostril, then kind of a little dent over here, and then over here he starts having those strange pointy scales all the way up to this horn over here. This horn actually starts over here, goes up, then down over here, and I might have actually made the back of his head a little bit too short, so I'm going to make it a tiny bit longer, because it's supposed to be a little bit longer like this, and then it goes down, curve over here, kind of attaches back to the rest of his face. Alright, now for let's first get the horn right. This goes down like this, very steeply. Maybe it's a little bit too steep. Just adjust it a tiny little bit. So this should be fine for now. And over here, his eye socket kind of starts, goes like this, and then just make an oval kind of shape like this. Over here he has a triangular kind of shape. Something that looks a bit like this. And over here he has a shape like this. which is just a tiny little bit larger than this hole. Over here is his nostril. Alright, so for right now we don't really have a dinosaur that looks angry or that has a lot of character in it. The character actually kind of starts when you put in his eye. That way he gets it looks a lot more accurate that way. And of course when you put in the teeth. So now we can put in some teeth. So what I'm gonna start with doing is putting in the teeth on his lower jaw. And first I just want to get this part right, because it doesn't really seem like it is right. So his jaw actually is now this circle. His jaw is supposed to be a little bit more like this. So the problem that I'm having right now is his lower jaw doesn't seem right. So I'm going to erase it so that I can get his lower jaw in a little bit more accurate. So this part is actually about as big as this part, maybe even a little bit bigger. Then it goes like this, and then it goes like that. So I might actually draw his jaw a little bit further opened so that I get it more accurate. So it looks a little bit more like this. This is a little bit more accurate to the way that it's supposed to look. Okay. And also don't press down too hard on your pencil. So what you can see right now is I drew it in very lightly so I could still erase it. So pay attention to that. Alright, so what we're gonna start with is one big teeth going all the way out. It's a very large one, pointing out like this, and then a little bit, one that's a little bit smaller, like that. And then we have a really small one right here, and then a very large one with his direction. The direction of this teeth actually changes and goes kind of up like this. It almost touches the upper jaw, but not completely. Then we have a very large space between this one and the next one. We have one that goes kind of the same, which is also very large, a little bit thicker. Then we have one that goes almost the same, but is a little bit smaller in size. One that goes like this. A very small one over here. Another one that's just as big as this one, maybe a little bit larger even. And then we just draw two more small ones with a little bit of a distance between it. Alright, so that's the lower jaw. Now we want to get the teeth in on this upper jaw. It starts with two small ones, kind of going like this, and then another one very close to it, and then one large one doing something like that. Then we have a lot of room, a lot of space between it, and then this one kind of goes like this. Kind of touches the one on the lower jaw. Then we have one over here. Well, actually one over here. This one is actually supposed to be a little bit larger. We could draw a small one in right here, and then we have one over there. One that goes like this. Alright. One that's very close to this one. And your teeth don't really have to be perfectly the same. So just you can just put a couple of teeth in, but make sure they kind of look like this. So what you have to do now is go over your teeth, make them a little bit darker, and kind of make them attach them to the jaw, to the outside of the jaw actually, instead of the inside. So this will give it a very nasty kind of effect, and the teeth will look very, very nasty. And do the same thing on the lower jaw. Because the teeth of the Indominus-Rex actually come from the outside of his jaws. Normally they would be on the inside of his mouth, but they come from the outside of his mouth, which is kind of strange. Alright, so now we can start on focusing on where his eye is going to be. His eye will be well, you could just draw like a cross over here, and then his eye would be about at the cross, so you could draw in his eye like this. So that's going to be his eye. So already I believe that his head is starting to look quite nasty. Then he has a lot of strange scales over here as well, like the ones that you see over here kind of go on until over here. And then this part actually goes kind of like this, and then this part goes like this, and then kind of goes like that. Makes it look a little bit more three-dimensional. Now we can try and focus on doing the neck. The neck kind of goes like this. Sorry, my dog keeps barking, so sometimes I have to pause the video a little bit. His neck kind of goes like this. He has a very rounded shaped neck, and then it kind of goes like this. Bottom side of his neck actually starts over here, and then it goes like this. Alright, so we're not going to darken his neck yet. We're just going to focus on darkening the head a little, and later we are going to draw in a lot of kind of spikes on his neck, and that's why we can't darken in this yet. But alright, so I'll be back. I'll be doing that right now. Okay guys, so I basically darkened every important line that we are going to need, but make sure not to darken too much of the lines. So pay close attention to what lines I did darken and what lines I didn't darken. For example, this isn't, you can't darken in this line yet, or this line, because this is actually non-existent in our drawing, and this line can't be darkened in yet either, because we will have to put a little bit of detail over there. So now what we want to do is basically get a couple of rows of spikes down his neck. So how we are going to start doing that is by drawing a couple of rows. So this is the first row. On this part we will have a lot of spikes. Then the second row kind of comes from over here, kind of goes down like this, and then goes like this. The third row comes from over here. It is a lot straighter. Goes like this, and then it goes kind of down. And then the last row actually starts about, I would say about over here, and then also kind of goes down like that. Alright, so let's start drawing in a couple of those. So they are not the same size as this huge horn on his head. They are about half the size of it. So, and they're also kind of angled more backwards. This is basically the first. Second one is a little bit larger, like that. Third one is actually the largest, and then they get smaller again. Now they just kind of get smaller and smaller. But on his back they start getting bigger again. And right now it might seem like they are very odd looking and they kind of look out of place, but when we're gonna put a little bit more detail in it, they will kind of look more three-dimensional. And maybe I could actually angle them down a little bit more so they also look a little bit better. Just starting from here, and don't make them as pointy, that way they look more natural. So that's the first row. Then the second row are very big, so they kind of start from over here, and on this point you can almost make them look kind of well, what would you call it, a little bit rounder kind of type of scales. And you don't really have to pay attention to how many you put on this, on his back of his neck, but you do have to pay attention to how many of these you put on over here. So over here they're getting smaller again. You can just start with doing circles, I guess, and then you have to pay attention to how many you put. So you have to equal the amount you put on here as compared to the amount you put on this row. So over here they are just getting really rounded like this. And kind of stay the same kind of size. And this one actually starts from over here, very small compared to the rest. So now we want to give it a better kind of shape. So going back in and kind of trying to shape them to the right kind of shape. Normally I would take a lot more time to do this, but for the sake of this tutorial I'm kind of rushing it. So the end result will be a lot more messy than what I could accomplish when I was actually taking my time. So the direction of these skills, the point of these skills kind of change, and that is the reason why they look different. So I'm angling my paper a little bit so I can draw it in a little better with this speed. And then just do the same thing over here. Alright, so that's the basics. Now we want to get a line over here. Kind of make a line like this, and then the scales, I mean the armory platings will not get past that line. So now we want to draw in those kind of armory plates. Let's start from over here and make it look like it's kind of three-dimensional. And we're not really putting in that much detail right now, and the shapes and stuff, but we will later on in the drawing. And later on in the drawing it will look pretty good. Alright, so it's starting to actually come together, the drawing. So now what we want to do is get a little bit more detail in his face. For example, his eye. We might want to put a couple of very dark scales above his eye ridge, and then we might want to actually get these scales in above his eye. Couple of rows of those strange looking scales. So that's actually what it looks like above his eye. Then we have a couple of other skills over there, and a couple of smaller ones over here, and also over here. So now we could draw in a little bit more detail around his eye. For example, the skin folds around his eye. They kind of get bigger and bigger. That's the kind of dinosaur eye that the Jurassic Park franchise uses a lot. And then there's one kind of wrinkle over here as well. So that's the basics for his eye, and now we can darken in a pretty big section of this. Because this needs to be very dark, a lot of shadow. And this shadow kind of goes on for like over till these scales. It kind of goes over half of this scale. And then you can just a couple of scales over there. Alright. And then there are a couple of scales that actually kind of go like this. And then a few more rounded scales go all the way until this part of his upper jaw. We have a couple of scales around this kind of hole, and then a couple of scales that go in it. And then you just draw a lot of shadow. There's a lot of shadow over here.